Human behavior is complex, fascinating, and full of mystery. For centuries, psychologists and researchers have sought to understand the intricacies of how we think, feel, and act. Today, we'll explore 15 powerful psychology facts that shed light on the deeper aspects of our behavior. These insights are not just facts. They are glimpses into the very fabric of what makes us human. 1. The power of first impressions. Research suggests that we form judgments about others within milliseconds of meeting them. A study by Princeton found that we judge someone's trustworthiness and competence based purely on their facial appearance in just a fraction of a second. This rapid judgment is survival instinct, rooted in evolutionary psychology. Our brains are wired to assess risks quickly. 2. The halo effect. The halo effect explains how a single positive trait can influence our overall perception of someone. For instance, if a person is physically attractive, we're more likely to assume they have other positive traits like intelligence or kindness. This cognitive bias has been demonstrated in countless studies, showing that we tend to allow one characteristic to overshadow all others. 3. Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort we feel when our beliefs conflict with our actions. A famous study by Fastinger showed that people who had engaged in an unpleasant task were more likely to convince themselves that it was actually enjoyable, simply to reduce this discomfort. We are masters of self-rationalization, often bending our own beliefs to fit our actions. 4. The power of social proof. Social proof is a phenomenon where people tend to mimic the behaviors of others, especially in uncertain situations. A famous experiment by psychologist Solomon Asch in the 1950s demonstrated how people would conform to a group's wrong answer simply because they didn't want to stand out. The need to belong often outweighs the desire for correctness, highlighting the social nature of human beings. 5. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias refers to our tendency to search for, interpret, and remember information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. We're often blind to evidence that contradicts our views. This explains why people often find themselves in echo chambers online, surrounded by information that supports their worldviews while dismissing opposing perspectives. 6. Mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are brain cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we see someone else perform that same action. This neural activity is believed to play a key role in empathy and understanding others' emotions. When we watch someone smile, our brain mirrors that action, helping us connect emotionally with them. Biological foundation for compassion. 7. The bystander effect. In emergencies, the presence of others can decrease the likelihood that someone will intervene. This paradox, known as the bystander effect, was famously studied after the tragic case of Kitty Genovese, who was murdered while 38 witnesses did nothing. The diffusion of responsibility, where everyone assumes someone else will act, explains why people sometimes stand by rather than take action. 8. The Pygmalion effect. Our expectations of others can have profound impact on their performance. In the Pygmalion effect, teachers who were told that certain students were late bloomers ended up seeing those students perform significantly better simply because they treated them with higher expectations. This phenomenon shows just how much our beliefs can shape reality. 9. The need for control. Humans have deep-rooted need for control in their lives. Research has shown that when people feel lack of control, whether in job, relationship, or social situation, they experience higher levels of stress and anxiety. This is why having even small amounts of perceived control can significantly improve one's mental well-being. 10. The scarcity principle. The scarcity principle suggests that we place higher value on things that are perceived as scarce. A classic study by Cialdini demonstrated that people were more likely to buy a cookie from a jar with fewer cookies in it, simply because they believed it was rare. This principle not only influences consumer behavior, but also underlies many of our social interactions, making us more attracted to things that seem hard to get. 11. The spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is the tendency to believe that we are being noticed more than we actually are. Psychologist Thomas Jalovic found that people tend to overestimate how much others are focused on their actions, appearance, and mistakes. In reality, most people are too preoccupied with their own lives to notice every little thing we do. 12. Self-serving bias. People often take credit for their successes but blame external factors for their failures. This self-serving bias helps protect our self-esteem but can sometimes distort reality. A study by researchers at the University of California showed that athletes were more likely to attribute victories to their skill and losses to bad luck or external factors. 13. The foot in the door technique. This psychological technique suggests that getting someone to agree to a small request makes them more likely to agree to a larger request later. This was shown in a classic study where homeowners were more likely to agree to a large sign in their yard if they had first agreed to a small request like a simple survey. This tactic is frequently used in marketing and sales, but also reveals the subtle ways we're influenced by small commitments. 14. Emotional contagion. Emotions are contagious. If someone around us is happy, angry, or anxious, we're more likely to feel the same way. This is called emotional contagion. Research shows that our brains are wired to synchronize with the emotional states of those around us, especially those we're close to. 15. The illusion of knowledge. We tend to believe we know more than we actually do. Phenomenon known as illusion of knowledge. Study by Coriat in 1997 revealed that people often overestimate their ability to recall facts accurately. This bias is part of why people feel confident discussing topics they don't fully understand, because they believe they know more than they really do. These 15 psychology facts barely scratch the surface of the complexity behind human behavior. The mind is vast and mysterious, and our understanding of it continues to evolve. What's most fascinating is how these psychological principles can shape the world around us, our relationships, decisions, and even our sense of self. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember that the science of human behavior is as rich and nuanced as the people it seeks to understand.